On the horizon for 2028 in the Democratic primary.
Right now?
Yeah.
Bernie and AOC?
No.
They got the biggest crowd.
The conversation around the 2028 Democratic primary is heating up, with names like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez AOC and Bernie Sanders frequently mentioned as potential frontrunners. However, as Bill Maher recently discussed with former House Speaker Kevin McCarthy, the idea of AOC or Sanders leading the Democratic ticket is far from a sure bet, and it's sparking intense debate about the party's future direction. Maher, in his signature blunt style, dismissed the notion that AOC's charisma and large crowds translates to viable leadership, arguing that the Democratic Party is grappling with an identity crisis that could lead to another electoral disaster if they don't course correct. The discussion, which turned fiery when AOC's name came up, revealed deep skepticism about her readiness to lead and raised broader questions about what the Democrats need to do to avoid repeating the mistakes of 2024. Maher's critique centered on the idea that popularity and fundraising prowess don't necessarily equate to electability. AOC, often celebrated for her ability to draw massive crowds and raise significant sums from small donors, is seen by some as a rising star who could galvanize the progressive base. Her fundraising success is reminiscent of Donald Trump's early campaign days in 2016, when he leveraged grassroots enthusiasm to outpace his rivals. McCarthy pointed out that AOC's financial haul, much like Trump's, reflects where the Democratic base's energy currently lies. However, Maher pushed back, arguing that big crowds and social media buzz don't automatically translate into a winning candidate. He emphasized that elections are won on substance, not just noise, and that the Democrats' obsession with charismatic figures like AOC could lead them down a dangerous path. The 2024 election serves as a cautionary tale. Kamala Harris, who raised an astonishing $1.5 billion, had celebrity endorsements and filled stadiums, still suffered a crushing defeat. Maher argued that Harris's campaign was a masterclass in mistaking spectacle for strategy. Despite her resources and visibility, she failed to connect with voters on a meaningful level, delivering what many consider one of the most humiliating losses in recent political history. The lesson, according to Maher, is clear. The Democrats must prioritize candidates who can articulate a coherent, authentic message that resonates with a broad electorate, not just the party's progressive wing. AOC, with her knack for viral moments and passionate rhetoric, risks falling into the same trap as Harris if she can't move beyond performance politics. AOC's appeal is undeniable to her supporters. Her ability to dominate headlines and energize young voters has made her a polarizing yet magnetic figure. Don Lemon and other prominent Democrats have hyped her as a potential 2028 nominee, seeing her as a fresh face who could reinvigorate the party. However, Maher and others, including Greg Gutfeld, argue that her charisma masks a lack of substantive ideas. Maher described AOC as silly but earnest, wrong but adorable, likening her to a college freshman returning from a semester at Brown with half-baked opinions. He argued that her ideas, while passionately delivered, are often recycled progressive talking points that fail to address the complexities of governing a diverse nation. This critique resonates with those who believe the Democrats need a leader who can bridge the gap between the party's progressive and moderate factions, rather than doubling down on divisive, far-left policies. The discussion also touched on AOC's strategic decisions within Congress, which reveal her political calculations. Recently, she opted not to pursue the top spot on the House Oversight Committee, choosing instead to remain on the Energy and Commerce Committee. This move, while pragmatic, underscores the challenges she faces within her own party. The Democratic caucus still values seniority, and AOC lost a previous bid for the oversight role to 75-year-old Jerry Connolly. By staying on energy and commerce, she retains influence over key issues like climate change and corporate regulation, which could bolster her credentials if she's eyeing a presidential run. However, it also highlights the structural barriers she faces in a party that often prioritizes experience over youth and charisma. For AOC, the decision to stay put is as much about long-term strategy as it is about avoiding a losing battle for a committee seat that might not serve her broader ambitions. Beyond her congressional maneuvers, AOC's personal narrative has come under scrutiny, raising questions about her authenticity. Critics have pointed out discrepancies in her backstory, particularly her portrayal of growing up in poverty in the Bronx. Records suggest she was raised in a more comfortable, suburban environment under the name Sandy Ocasio, not the polished Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez she presents today. Her oft-repeated story of waitressing to make ends meet, while relatable, doesn't necessarily prove the economic hardship she claims. Many Americans, including those from affluent backgrounds, have worked service jobs, and critics argue that AOC has exaggerated her struggles to craft a from the struggle brand. This narrative, while compelling to her base, doesn't hold up under scrutiny, and Maher warned that such inconsistencies could undermine her credibility as a national leader. AOC's critics also point to her political style as a liability. Her arrest during a protest against the Supreme Court's 2022 decision to overturn Roe v. Wade, for example, was framed by supporters as an act of heroism, but derided by others as political theater. Maher and others argue that her focus on performative gestures, whether it's getting arrested or delivering fiery speeches, prioritizes optics over policy. Her rhetoric, often laced with buzzwords and moral outrage, appeals to the progressive base but alienates moderates who crave practical solutions. This disconnect was evident in the 2024 election, where the Democrats' embrace of woke politics left many voters feeling alienated. If AOC were to lead the 2028 ticket, critics warn she could deepen this divide, pushing away the swing voters who decide elections. Another point of contention is AOC's fixation on Donald Trump, which some describe as Trump derangement syndrome. Her calls to impeach Trump, even after his presidency, have been criticized as baseless and obsessive. For instance, she accused Trump of crimes related to hypothetical nuclear strikes in Iran, a claim that lacks grounding in evidence or constitutional reasoning. Maher and others argue that this focus on Trump distracts from addressing real issues like the economy or foreign policy. It also risks alienating voters who are tired of partisan mudslinging and want leaders who can focus on governance rather than settling personal scores. AOC's tendency to make inflammatory statements, such as calling Trump a rapist despite legal rulings to the contrary, has also drawn scrutiny. Her comments led to a $15 million defamation settlement against George Stephanopoulos, serving as a reminder that reckless rhetoric can have legal and political consequences. The broader issue, as Maher and McCarthy discussed, is the Democratic Party's lack of a clear leader or vision for 2028. While AOC and Sanders dominate the conversation now, their prominence may not last. McCarthy noted that the party's direction often becomes clearer 2 years out from an election, when governors and other pragmatic leaders start to emerge with solutions tailored to the moment's key issues. Whether it's a foreign policy crisis or an economic downturn, the candidate who can address these challenges with competence and clarity is likely to rise to the top. AOC's current lead in fundraising and visibility doesn't guarantee her the nomination, just as Harris's 2024 momentum didn't secure her the presidency. The Democrats need someone who can move beyond the Twitter applause and activist buzzwords that define AOC's brand and offer a message that resonates with a broader electorate. The Republican Party, too, faces its own challenges, as McCarthy pointed out. While Trump's victory in 2024 was a high point, the party underperformed in Senate races, missing opportunities to expand their majority. This suggests that neither party can afford to rest on its laurels. For the Democrats, the risk is doubling down on a progressive agenda that, while energizing to some, has proven electorally toxic. The 2024 election showed that voters are wary of candidates who prioritize ideology over pragmatism, and AOC's brand of politics, rooted in viral moments and uncompromising rhetoric, may not translate to a national stage. Ultimately, the debate over AOC's potential candidacy is about more than one politician. It's about the soul of the Democratic Party and whether it can learn from its recent failures. Maher's warning is stark. If the Democrats continue to confuse noise for substance, they risk another electoral train wreck in 2028. AOC's charisma and fundraising ability make her a formidable figure, but her lack of fresh ideas, questionable authenticity, and polarizing style raise serious doubts about her viability as a national leader. The party must decide whether to gamble on a candidate who thrives on performance or seek someone who can unite its factions and appeal to a broader electorate. As the 2028 primary approaches, The Democrats' ability to navigate this identity crisis will determine whether they can reclaim the White House or face another devastating defeat.